like the way the loading screens look in this game. The spinning orbs and stuff. You've made quite a mess up here. That's a pretty... At the very least, he doesn't actually say it like that. On guard! Guard on! Now see, that's a good joke. That's charming. I hope you appreciated my cut there. He challenges them to a battle, and they instantly win.
Wow, there were a lot.
Actually, they took 2.5 minutes, but, well, for me, it took way longer because the time limit is actually kind enough to freeze when you have to sit through the unskippable Team Blast cutscene. But that also makes it impossible for me to actually show you how long it takes when you're constantly spamming the Team Blast to get through the stupid... I just hate those boss fights so much. At the very least, you can just constantly spam the Team Blast with them and win. And I'm not talking about when you use codes, because again, you get so much rings from all those enemies you defeat that it's guaranteed to have another one. Rail Canyon and Bowl Station they have a lot more instances where you have to go into switches that change the direction of the tracks. And it turns into a confusing maze where you can spend a really long time going around in circles. Particularly in, I think it's Bolt Station, where I took over 10 minutes the second time I played it. The second time! You think, like, that's how bad it is. The second time I played it took over 10 minutes, and 3 of them were spent on one section, where I eventually just used the infinite flight code to its advantage, and just flew over to the red tunnel I was trying to go to. There's a lot of times in these levels where you're going to be constantly running around in circles to Team Chaotix because they're just so much more mazy this time around. Why am I just falling through the rails? There I go.
Let's go.
At the very least, again, these are thrill rides. Like, you're going through them pretty quickly because of the fact that they have the courtesy to have dash pads in the rails. But still, you can rail switch by accident and die. And yeah, it's kind of designed like a boost level, isn't it? I mean, you're just going forwards, holding down the acceleration button, and like rail switching is pretty similar to quick stepping, isn't it? Because you're doing a thing to immediately move to the left or right a little bit, but not too much, while still moving forwards. So it's kind of designed like a boost level, but more like a Generations 3D boost level, where you're not drifting at all. And so it's not as thrilling because you don't have to constantly anticipate and react really quickly to walls that you're coming up, so you can drift away from them. Instead it's just boosting in a straight line. But the level design does make me think of how Heroes would have been received if instead of going with this gameplay style that I really like, but it's definitely overwhelming to get into and not a game that just any newcomer can pick up and play. Which is a big problem because the whole marketing of this game was to attract newer audiences. Being a better transition from the classic era to the adventure era. And yet, it has such a complicated gameplay style that, like, I've seen people who were only fans of the classic games try to play this for the first time, and they didn't like it at all. It's all because it's so complicated. So, well, the boost gameplay is definitely complicated too. I mean, just think of how many different things you have to learn all at once. But at the very least, I think maybe if Heroes was the first 3D boost game, maybe it would have been received better. And see, I did not mean to rail switch multiple times in a row going backwards. Why is that dash pad even there? Why does it send you backwards? That's like the springs that send you back in the classic Sonic games. They just scream bad level design. And here I'm going backwards because I'm not really sure where I'm supposed to go. I'm not sure how I'm supposed to get past this wall because it's not like it's SA2 where you have the somersault and you can somersault underneath walls. I think this is what I'm supposed to do, but I think so because you can't normally fly for this long. I'm using a code to do that. Like, just to make my life a little easier. Maybe you were expected to rock excel under it? I don't know. In Seaside Hill and Grand Metropolis as Team Chaotix, SPO will say, "Are those Eggman's robots?" But the subtitles will read, "Are those Eggman's assassins?" That kind of speaks to the whole kind of paranoid personality that SPO has. Like, he just assumes that, like, he actually uses the word assassin. I mean, it makes sense. He's a ninja, and ninjas are literally assassins. That's literally what they were. And in Shadow the Hedgehog, when Shadow arrives in where SPO was, he just immediately assumes that it's an assassin. Why would there be assassins sent out for the Chaotix? I mean, even though they are detectives out to fight crime, they aren't a big target anyways, I would think, because I'm getting the impression they're heavily overshadowed by Sonic and the rest of the heroes. So that would create jealousy and resentment to them, and thus, why would they be targeted by assassins? But that's how paranoid SPO is. They never actually go into what SPO's backstory is. I mean, I assume that he was raised by a father who was a ninja, because why would he be a ninja when the rest of the Chaotix aren't? That also brings up the question of how they even met SPO in the first place and got him to join them. How did all of them meet to begin with? I mean, I can imagine that they just adopted Charmy from an orphanage, but where did SPO come from? And like, why were there ninjas anyways? I mean, it's not like SPO is, well, he is portrayed as being from a sort of Asian country in the pre-reboot Archie comics, but in the games, him being a ninja seems kind of out of place since they're Japanese, and I don't know. But yeah, this level design is definitely trying to be more complicated than the grinding of SA2, where you would just go forwards and maybe the rails would curve around. This time you've got loops and dynamic camera angles to accommodate that, and you got like you're dropped on top of on top of rails. Like, the thing is that the loops, like, again, dynamic camera angles. And that's the thing, like, in the classic games, the loops were dedicated to giving you more speed. And they only functioned right when they sent you down into downward slopes, where you could actually take advantage of that speed, rather than just being dropped down into a platforming section in Sonic 2. Yeah, that's why Hilltop Zone sucks. But the point is that in the 3D games, the loops are really pointless because other than just being a holdover, the loops are just, they're showing dynamic camera angles, and that's to look all fancy and cool. The loops are there to look cool. When in the classic games, the loops weren't cool at all. They were just there to make you look cool afterwards with speed that they give you. But yeah, this is what I was remembering when I talked about how one of the two levels in this zone dragged out to over 10 minutes for me the second time that I played it. Which really goes to show you how bad this section is, because this was the second time I played it. The first time I lucked out. This is a switch puzzle where you have to walk into a switch that you free from a cage by defeating enemies, and only then will you be able to interact with the switch. But I don't know if it's as simple as just freeing the switch from the cage and then walking into the switch and then walking into the other switch, and there, the switch puzzle's done. Because I think I just got confused, because I took over 3 minutes here just wandering around in circles when I played the level for a second time. And that isn't very good design. Like, I literally ended up giving up and just using the infinite flying code to my advantage by just flying over to the red tunnel myself. Because I couldn't figure out for the life of me how I was supposed to progress. I mean, look at this. This is a rail that goes around in circles, and that's literally it. There's actually a green train enemy on it. I had no idea at first that that was an enemy that you could defeat. It didn't look like an enemy. It looked like the red trains, which you couldn't defeat. But it turns out you can thunder shoot them, and that's what you need to think to do to get rid of the cage. But I really lucked out here. I was able to get past this just fine. Maybe what I had to do was hit one of the switches first? But that shouldn't matter. Like, shouldn't it just be that you activate both of them at the same time? Well, not at the same time, because that'd be impossible. They're too far apart from each other. But I don't remember if the footage is me doing that, but did I activate the switch that was the most intuitive first, and then figured out how to defeat that green train enemy and activate the other one? Is that why I completed it so quickly? But yeah, this is a level that's basically a confusing maze, and Bullet Station doesn't do it any favors either, because it has the car that if you run into stuff, you get your partner's knocked out of it. Not to mention I died a cheap death once because I was holding down the B button, and surprisingly, no, I didn't die because of the rail switching that time. You'll see. In the first cutscene of Team Chaotix, when Charmy bursts into the room, it looks like their headquarters is inside of a furniture shop, which is really weird since they're supposed to be detectives. So, do they sell furniture on the side? I mean, don't you kind of need to? I don't know if you're actually allowed legally to sell furniture and be a detective agency. Yeah, I definitely rail switched by accident there. There's no way that I would have intentionally rail switched when there weren't any other rails for me to switch to. It shouldn't actually be possible to rail switch if there aren't any rails even next to you at all. And more switch puzzles! Yay! But yeah, they're apparently inside of a furniture shop. Apparently that's where their detective services are, which is really weird. Maybe it just looks like it. And there's actually pinned papers behind Vector in that cutscene showing concept art of Sonic 1 Badniks, which is probably a development gag to the fact that Vector was supposed to be in Sonic 1's sound test, and he was scrapped from it. I guess because they didn't have enough time to complete that fancy sound test thing. But yeah, the mission for this level is not as tame as the mission before, where it was designed around level design more, where since Rail Canyon is just about going ahead on the rails, naturally it was just a get to the goal ring mission, which really makes you wish that every single mission for the Chaotix was like that. But this mission is just about, well, you find 30 capsules and you destroy them. Thankfully there are more than 30 of them, so you don't really have to worry about missing any. Which is good because if you go past some of them with the car, I don't know if the ones in the car section count, because that seems like it would be kind of mean, because you go past them and they're lost forever. But yeah, it's not really that bad. I mean, again, the level design is linear enough to just naturally lead you into every single one you need to hit. It's just kind of tedious always having to switch to the power type to destroy these things. Apparently, again, Rail Station is apparently supposed to be Eggman's base. I don't really like the concept of, like, what doesn't make sense to me is, I like to imagine that Eggman has two bases. There's the base that the game characters go to every game, which changes setting every time. and obviously it's constantly like new. And Eggman probably also has a home base where he has a bed and stuff. Because it wouldn't really make any sense for him to just not have any home at all, like in between games, because the base was destroyed. Like, take Sonic 1 for example. Imagine that his only base was Scrap Brain Zone. Well, so Sonic destroys Scrap Brain Zone, and then what? See, this is bullshit. I was holding down the B button because I was accelerating on the rails, and then Vector just died. And I guess I was holding down the A button afterwards, trying to save myself, because you can't switch to the flying type in midair and start flying. So yeah, I was pretty much screwed. I remember that I went off the rails, and then Vector automatically started belly flopping to his death. But I actually looked at the footage and saw him actually just floating upwards with the bubblegum. So I don't know if he did a belly flop and then I canceled out of it or something. Yeah, that was pretty weird. This is the best part of the level. This is the only part of the level that I really like. The gliding on Bandit's thing. Oh, it's not really gliding, it's just hovering over everything with the bubblegum. Which makes me wonder why you can't just fly around normally with him. I mean, I guess it just can't hold his weight too much. So he can only hover above the level for a brief amount of time. Like it's a really high jump.
So here's something weird. Why doesn't the Chaotix Team Blast hurt the Team Chaotix ears too? Because the whole point of it is that it destroys robots by having music play that the robots hate so much that they self-destruct. I guess that humanizes the robots. Like, it really goes to show you how much more advanced the robots have become since the Badniks. Because you have robots that can get dizzy and fall in love with Rouge in that one Generations mission and stuff like that. By the way, Vector is holding his partners in his mouth. Why aren't they opposing to that? And this is also pretty amusing, like constantly jumping with the cart to try and make sure I'll spend most of my time in the air to increase my chances of not hitting anything. There really isn't any camera angle that could make this easier. I mean, if it was diagonal, then I wouldn't be able to see as much as what was ahead of me. And as you can see after this, what's the point of that lower right indicator? It's not like a time attack. But yeah, I just missed a capsule there, in an area where I was forced to go forwards automatically. So did that capsule I miss count? Not that it matters, because, as I said, there's more than 30 capsules in the level that you need to destroy for no reason whatsoever. Again, how does this help Eggman? Like, so he destroys Metal Sonic's stuff, so what? Isn't he gonna want to use it later? And how does that help him get out of the room he's locked in? But yeah, the point is, when they play their instruments in that Team Blast, it's not like they have earplugs on. I like to point out that, well, you can go through the laser gates while invisible, and that's pretty cool. They never actually tell you about that in the hints. They don't have any sort of hints about the fact that you can do that. So a first-time player might be stumped because they don't realize that just because they're invisible means you can somehow go through lasers. I don't think that's how invisibility works. I'm pretty sure the heat of the lasers would still hurt you. By the way, another time that I rail switched by accident. The rail switching controls are very sensitive in this game. I've never had as much of a problem with them as I did in SA. I never had that much of a problem with them in SA2 as I did in this game. Although the game never actually forced you to rail switch, aside from the hard missions in that game. Like, that's another thing. Why are there 2 levels in this game using grinding as their major gimmick? It's not a new thing anymore. it made sense to have like sky rail, and I couldn't actually see that was a wall there because of the way the fence was. I could see too much of what was behind it from in front of it. I don't think that's very good aesthetical design. But anyways, why are there 2 levels in this game using grinding as a major gimmick when it's not a new thing anymore? It made sense for SE2 where there's Sky Rail and Final Rush, and it was like, ooh, looking at our cool new gimmick. But now, it's just... See, that thing flips over so fast. Like, you want to land on it with the flying, but as soon as you try to land on it, it flips over. So I don't know if you actually can get away with flying over it legitimately. I think you pretty much have to triangle jump and hope that the platform flipping over won't knock you off the wall. But yeah, I don't really like the Team Blasts in the sense that, again, it takes the longest. And while I guess it's kind of humorous at first, it ends up just being annoying.